You guys are so prompt. Okay, Jesse should be getting on any second now. So excited. Hi,
Hi.
how's it going?
Good.
Good.
Everyone's on time.
I know, all these people jumped right on.
Good for them.
Woo! Yeah, that's because this book has a lot of feelings, I feel.
Yeah. My favorite, I know we'll talk about this later, but my favorite question was the emoji
That was
responses because
brilliant.
everyone was very passionate in what they wrote.
Yep, I love
It
sharing
was
that. If
really
anyone
funny.
feels like they want to share their emojis again right now, feel
Yeah.
free. Because, yeah, that was a great question to ask because it was fun to see everyone's reactions.
Yeah, it was fun.
And the thing with this book too is that there are reactions throughout like each of the sections that you're
Mm-hmm.
like, what? Yeah,
Totally.
great pick. This was your pick. So great
It
job.
was. Thanks.
Why did you pick it? Tell us why you suggested it.
Um, First of all, I picked it because I got a free copy of it a few months ago.
Nice.
And I was like, I think I've heard of this book. And so cool. And then I was like, I saw that like it was on Oprah's reading list and like Obama's reading list, and it was just like a popular book last year. So
Hmm.
I was like, let's see what the fuss is about. And I went into it with really like no expectations at all.
Hmm.
Um, so it kind of was like a different story than what I expected it was going to be for some reason, but
Right.
I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, I really liked it. When I finished it, I was like, boy, that was
Yeah.
an experience to read that.
Hmm.
So glad that everyone wanted to read it with us and that you shared all your comments and thoughts. You guys had really good comments and we wrote them all down so
Yeah.
we could share all of them because we want to make sure that everyone's thoughts get shared here in this
Hmm.
one because they were all so good. So, do you want to? The first major question that we asked in our Instagram polls, besides like, what do you think about it, is Andre versus Roy. Like,
Yeah.
what do you think? And there were a
Yeah, and it came
lot.
out to be really close. It was like
What was the final?
almost 50-50,
Yeah.
which was interesting.
Uh
Who
huh.
did you pick?
Andre.
Really? I picked Roy.
I was hoping actually that we would have been opposite because that makes it more fun. But I
Okay,
feel like
so
a lot of people.
you explain why you picked him, and then I'll explain, and then let's read some comments
Okay,
about it.
so here are my feelings, and let me just also preface this by saying I read the first half of the book in a day and the second half of the book in a different day.
Okay.
So
That's
it
kind
was
of how
like,
I did it too, actually.
yeah. So I like cruised through it when I was reading it, but I read one
Mhm.
part and then another part. And here are my thoughts. Andre, I choose Andre because I like him better as a person. I feel like he was kinder and that he treated Celestial better, both while they were together and I mean they were like together the majority of the book, but compared to like when Celestial and Roy were married, I feel like Andre and Celestial's relationship was
It was a healthier
more
relationship.
respectful. It was healthier. Yeah, healthier. And so
Yeah.
I did take issue that he was like, "Oh, hey, here I am. Like, sorry your husband's in jail, but I'm gonna
Yeah.
sneak in here." That felt shady, but as a person in a relationship, I think that relationship was healthier. So that's why I
Yeah.
picked
Let
Roy.
me make a
Okay,
comment on that.
okay.
So I totally agree with that, that like as a human person, like I like Andre a lot more. Like
Mm-hmm.
he's a lot nicer guy, and honestly, I don't feel like we really learn a ton about him except
Yeah,
that
that's
he's
true.
nice.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like we just know that he's nice and he's like unconditionally supportive of her.
Mm-hmm.
But the reason I picked Roy is because she already married him,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
that's what it comes down to. Like out of context, Andre is better in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
In context, Roy, because
Because they
she
agreed.
had already married him.
Right. They
Like
were
it, of
married.
course, it would be super hard to have your husband be in jail for like 5 years, of course. But um, even though he wasn't necessarily like the best guy, like he was a little bit kind of dishonest sometimes, or like
Mm-hmm.
things like that. But like she married him, and if it was me, I would stay married
Mm-hmm.
like at all costs. But that's like my opinion for me.
Right.
So
The tricky thing is like, and I love how the author, she wrote it in such a way that you do have to grapple with these like huge thought processes, because the easy, neat way to write this would be like, and they got divorced, and Roy was
yeah,
mad about that, but like there was nothing ethically to be done in that way.
yeah, there was definitely like a huge ethical dilemma there.
Yeah, which made it really interesting to see how all of those characters dealt with it. Okay, so should we read everyone's I'll read
Yeah.
Andre comments and you can do the Roy one.
Okay. Team Roy over here.
Okay, so for the Andre, the people who chose thought Andre was a better choice, or I don't know how he worded it, but Sydney said, I feel that Roy didn't treat Celestial well in the first place. He was a very territorial man,
And yeah,
which, and
I
that
agree.
came like in very dramatic scenes when they were reuniting in Atlanta. It was very tough to read.
Yeah.
And then a little bit of Liz said Andre has so much history with Celestial, which adds another fascinating element to the story. Is like
Yep.
they've known each other longer than anyone else,
Hmm.
which is interesting. And like he was their best man, which is like. And
Yeah.
then Natalie said Roy did not have a good track record before jail and was selfish while in jail.
Yeah, he
Which
was like sort of, it didn't really say that he was unfaithful to her, but
it didn't say that he
maybe it didn't
was.
say that he was faithful
No,
either.
no, but that's also why I liked the different viewpoints and the way it was told, is because you kind of get to piece together and they become so real, because we all have this spectrum of emotion, and we all have a spectrum of when we do things that we aren't proud of or whatever. Like we all make mistakes, and we all like sometimes don't even feel bad about our mistakes. And I think that is a really important thing that doesn't always show up in books, when people are very ethical or not ethical all the time.
Yeah. Yeah,
So,
this was a really good story for like that, like ethical dilemmas and like being very torn because I
hmm
wasn't like all for Roy all the time. Like there
right.
were times when I was like, he sucks. Like,
hmm
and then there were times when I was like, Andre isn't being that great either, like
Yeah,
so it was really complex and I thought that was like really well. It was like an interesting world she made, you
yeah.
know.
We have a couple comments that are coming in that I want to read really quick, and then we'll talk about the Roy reasons that everyone said.
Yeah.
Jordan says Roy did kind of suck, but I also felt like Andre was kind of a doormat, like he was scared to disagree with her at all if you're
Yeah,
her, which
totally.
is totally true. Just need a
Like if
guy in
they
the
were
middle of the
married,
Roy
like he
Andre
was like a
scale.
pushover. Like he would have she would have worn the pants, I think, which is fine. Like, but I don't think it would have been like really equal because he's like totally like blinded by his love for her, kind of.
Right. Like it's obsessive almost.
Yeah.
Caroline says it makes me wonder if their marriage would have lasted had Roy not been arrested and wrongly accused, and I wondered that as well, because
Interesting, yeah.
their relationship was. But also at the end of the book, there's a line when they're like reuniting where it's like that's how our relationship is that we love hard and we fight hard, and I was like,
Yeah. And yeah,
okay.
that might just be their thing, yeah.
Yeah, Sydney, I feel
Jordan's
like
funny.
Celestial and Roy would have gotten divorced whether or not went to jail. Yeah,
Need a guy in the middle of the Roy Andre scale.
yeah. Do you want to read
We
your
need someone.
the Roy? Do you want
Yeah,
to read
so
the Roy?
Roy reasons, Jalen said because she was married to him, which was my like top reason.
Mm-hmm.
Already committed. Jordan said Andre bugged, like boohoo, she didn't like you before, get over it. Yeah, I also felt that way too. Like he was just kind of like a fly on the wall, like waiting to swoop in. But
Yeah.
um Sarah Curry said Roy supported and loved Celestial. It was imperfect love, but it wasn't selfish like Andre's. And I also agree with that too. Is like nobody is perfect. Like it wasn't a perfect love. Like Roy and Celestial both like had a lot of like learning to do in their relationship, but
Right.
he was like devoted to her still,
Yeah. Some comments are coming in that I want to read really quick because they're really good.
Eh,
So Natalie said, really, I feel like she would be better without both men. She obviously didn't love Andre so much that she didn't consider Roy, which I'm also like, true.
yeah.
Maybe it would have been better if everyone just separated. Like, after the
Yeah.
conference, there was like, okay, goodbye. We need to
I-
just...
Yeah.
Sarah, she needed someone to challenge her more than Andre. Love Hard,
Yeah.
Fight Hard is like the Notebook, a movie I can't stand. A little bit of Liz. That's so
Yeah.
true. Yes, that's not healthy. Okay, keep going.
Just finishing up real quick. I think it's slimy for a BFF, Andre, to pursue Celestial while she's still married. I know it takes two to tango. And then Caroline said, Roy was true to her until she broke it off via letter. Andre was just convenient. So I think reasons for both sides are really good. We could have like
Everyone
a
is
debate
correct.
club. Yeah, everyone, you're
That's
right.
why it's so interesting to have all the different perspectives because you can see all the sides
Mhm.
from like with all of those. I'm like, correct. Yes.
Yeah.
You're right.
Okay, speaking
But-
of that perspective, who is your favorite perspective to read?
Roy.
Same.
Yeah,
He's my
I
favorite.
really liked, and it might be because he had the most airtime or page time,
Yeah.
but so you kind of get into his head a little bit more. But I just found his internal dynamicism. That's not a word. Dynamicness. That's not a word either. Of the character, like you get to see his whole change from inside his head. Whereas like you don't get that as much with the other characters, I feel, because they just pop in when they're trying to. When I felt like the author was going to be like, okay, we need a break from Roy to like make some suspense, so we'll go to someone else.
Yeah, I feel like Roy like carried the story.
Yeah, which I think he was supposed to because it's a
Yeah.
story about so many
What
things
happened to
pertaining
him,
to his
kind of.
experience. But I just found him the most interesting, and when it was, even though I picked Andre, I was like, snooze fest, like don't
Yeah,
care.
he was like boring. I was like, okay. Yeah, I liked Roy. I thought like the most interesting stuff happened to him.
Yeah.
And I liked like I thought like the book read almost like a song. Like her writing was like really like
Mhm.
beautiful.
Very, very
Like the
lyrical, yeah.
cadence of it was like really beautiful, and I thought Roy's like the way he turned phrases was my favorite.
Yeah.
But we kind of got a mixed bag there. Like some people really liked reading about Celestial.
Uh-huh.
Um,
Yeah, a lot of people.
she's like a strong woman, blah blah. But some people were like, let me read this one. Like Caroline said, I can't say I had a favorite. They were all interesting. And then a little bit of Liz said, I know your name's Alyssa. I just always say a little bit of Liz. I didn't love any of them, but probably Roy was the most interesting. So yeah, like I didn't necessarily feel like I loved anybody,
Mm-hmm.
but like Roy was the most interesting to me as well.
Yeah, that's also kind of why I like the book so much, is because I wasn't like totally rooting for anybody. Really, I was
Yeah.
just, like waiting to see what would happen.
Yeah, I
So-
definitely wasn't like I didn't have a favorite character.
So Sarah just agreed with you and said I listened to the audiobook and it was
Oh,
totally
cool.
musical. So you were right.
Cool.
So lyrical. And then Caroline said, what did you guys think about Roy's dad being in jail with him?
Oh, that was cool. I
Mhm.
actually really liked that part. And Jordan said that was the part that surprised her.
Mhm.
And me too. That was like the
Yeah,
most.
that was like, it was cool.
Yeah.
That was a cool moment, and I loved the letter at the end that he wrote to him.
Yeah, that was sweet.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting because such a fraught theme in this narrative was what it means to be a man, and if that is equal to being a father, and just the idea of masculinity and being a husband and being a father, and like, are those interchangeable? Are they not? What do we have in our minds from growing up, and then how does that change according to like what we experience? And I think it's the same thing with motherhood and everything, because there's a line in there where Roy is writing back. It's at the end where Roy is writing back to Celestial talking about Davina and saying, like, you can have a kid even if you feel like you don't want to because the love will come with the kid. But that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, just because you don't feel like a mother doesn't mean you couldn't be, but it doesn't mean you're less of a woman. So I just
Yeah.
thought those themes were really interesting because they weren't blatant, but it was just the way the characters had to grapple with those ideas that I found interesting.
Yeah. People
Um,
are like commenting on what you're saying, and it's all good.
okay. I don't know if we could. I know everyone can read those. Um,
Yeah.
should we talk about the
The
themes then? Because
themes.
we were just talking about themes a little bit.
Yeah. Well, as you mentioned, like his father, and someone just said Jordan loved Walter and loved that it didn't turn into a cliche estranged dad plot.
Mm-hmm.
This is something I noticed with a TV show that I used to work on, where it's like a reality show, and a lot of the contestants are black,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a show where people are trying to find their families,
Mm-hmm.
and a lot of the people in the show don't know who their dads are,
Mm-hmm.
and it's kind of like a prevalent thing in African American culture where dads leave.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just purely an observation from this pool of like 20
Right,
people
from your
that I've
experience on that.
from my
Yeah.
experience, but like it is a really prevalent thing no matter what your social class is,
Mm-hmm.
um, in black culture where fathers leave. And so that was like something I liked reading more about but it wasn't like the stereotypical like poor black family. Like these are upwardly mobile people with careers, educated.
Mm-hmm.
So I just appreciated reading a book that showed like a more diverse look at black culture.
Mm-hmm.
So I liked that.
Yeah, I appreciated that perspective as well. Natalie did a comment that I think is really interesting. Ironic, since bringing up his biological dad was celestial was what inadvertently landed him in prison in the first place, which I totally forgot that was like the root of their
That's like what got them mad at each other.
at the hotel.
Hmm.
And that is really interesting to think about because it actually makes the book very complete almost to me.
Yeah. Yeah. It's like full circle.
Yeah. Natalie, so observant, so wise. Other themes that I thought were really interesting, along with more understanding a little bit more and getting a glimpse into diverse Black experiences, like you talked about. I really like that, and I want to read more books that do that because that's just something I feel like is missing from a lot of the cultural conversation that I've experienced. So, like
Yeah.
books, TV, or whatever it is. So, I'd like to expand my horizons more to learn more.
I also tend to read books more if I'm gonna read like a black by a black author or a story with black characters, like it tends to be in the past, like a historical
Yeah.
like account. But this is cool because it's like modern day
Mm-hmm.
and meant to be that way. And so I think I need to include more like contemporary stories like that.
Yeah. So other themes that a lot of you guys talked about in our polls was all about love
Hmm.
and what love means and that love is difficult and that what does love mean in a relationship when something doesn't go the way it's supposed to or when you feel like the love is broken, like what does that mean? And so I think that theme is really hard to solve, but it was really interesting that the way it was addressed in so many different ways, I thought.
Definitely. Yeah, like it was kind of like a falling out of love story
Mm-hmm.
more than a falling in love story, which
Which is so
probably what I
interesting to think
expected.
about the title of the book also, because the title isn't just something that an author is like, just, I don't know, like, name it whatever. It's very intentional to name your book. So calling this story that, do you like this is my library book? Um,
Yeah.
calling this story that's so fraught with so many difficult things that are not what you think about in like a marriage is
Hmm.
really interesting because it's like marriage can be hard,
It was like all like the dark, hard parts of marriage that no
harder
one
than
wants to
I can
talk about.
even imagine, especially because I don't belong to the Black community, so I don't know that experience. but also I like that it's called An American Marriage because this is the American.
This could be anybody.
Yeah.
Like the
And not even
there's
like
something
the jail
said-
part, but just like that.
Yeah, something to be said about like the jail part being particularly tied to the Black culture.
Mhm.
And that's kind of like, we could go into that too. I don't think we have time, but like just the injustice in the political or like the justice system.
Mhm.
But yeah, like these universal love and difficult marriage things could apply to anybody and everybody.
Yeah. So interesting. Okay, let's talk about surprises because I think that was one of my favorite parts of the book is how like after each section I was like, what's happening? I'm so like
Yeah.
very surprised a lot of the time, which I liked.
Mhm.
So Jaylyn said she was surprised that they didn't end up together. And a lot of people said that.
Yeah, I was too. Like when the book ended and she was with Roy, I was like, okay, like I'm glad she's giving him a try. Like she's gonna try and make it work with him.
Uh-huh.
And then it was like, oh, epilogue, nope. She's not with Roy. Like,
Cries.
yeah.
Yeah,
that
but
was
also
great.
I was thinking about that. I was like, why did we not get to see why it didn't work out with them? But I realized that's not the point of it. The point of it was the decisions about loyalty and love. It wasn't about who's going to end up with who.
Right.
But yes,
Yeah,
it's
that's
still very shocking who ended up with who. Because I was like, I was very surprised.
yeah. Yeah, and Jordan had sent a DM earlier saying like that exact same thing and just being like feeling good about the ending and then being like, what? But I think what you said is like spot on. Like it's not about Celestial and Roy exactly. It was and their relationship. It was more just about the decisions that they ended up making.
Yeah, but I mean,
And I think
Ashley makes a good point. She said that the ending took her by surprise because it felt too tidy and convenient, which I also agree with. Because even though the story wasn't about that, it felt very like,
it ended fast.
yeah.
Like from the fight to the end of the book was like a blink of an eye. Like,
Mhm.
but yeah, it kind of just shows you that like, depending on the point you are in your life, like you could end up with anybody. Like, I don't really believe in like soulmates necessarily. Like,
Nah.
this is just like, it kind of depends on the circumstance, the context that you're in,
Mhm.
and like the decision that you make, and that's who you're married to, you know, like in any other set of circumstances you could be married to someone else.
Yep.
And
Totally.
that's kind of like what I got from this book. But
Sydney just said, I think the last line before the epilogue summed up why they didn't end up together pretty well. So I just found it, so I'm gonna read it.
okay.
She said, but neither of us closed our eyes against the immeasurable dark of that silent night. And that's like right as they were getting back together, and they're not going to.
They're not in sync at all.
Yeah, and it's just heartbreaking, but at the same time, like relief almost for me. I don't know, but so good. Jordan also says another part of the ending that was weird was when Celestial went back to Roy after the fight with Andre, like that sequence, not even like the between the ending of the book and the epilogue, that stuff that we don't know, but the fight happens and then all of a sudden she's like, Merry Christmas, goodbye, forever.
Yeah. Yeah.
Worst Christmas ever. And then she's back with Roy and I'm like, this is weird.
Yeah, so yeah, I felt like the ending just happened so fast that I felt like I had missed something.
Yeah.
And I needed to like reread it or something. But do you have any like there's like more we could get into, but we're at our time limit.
Oh, already?
Our
You guys had so many good
self-imposed-
comments.
Yeah.
I'm so glad that everyone shared their comments because this made it really fun to know everyone's experiences.
I liked that everyone was really passionate about like what they felt about this book. Yeah. That makes it really fun for us to comment on and read.
So we hope you liked this pick that Jesse did. We picked it because like love Valentine's Day, but in like a not typical way. And also to celebrate Black History Month. And we talked about it in an Instagram post and we talked about it a little bit here. But I want to learn more about the experiences that Black people in America are having in contemporary literature. So anyway,
Mhm.
that's one of my goals that I especially have after reading this awesome book.
Yeah, I recommend that book.
Great job, Jess.
It was good.
Great
Thanks.
pick.
And next month is another one that I picked.
You're so
Sorry.
good.
It's called The Other Einstein, and it's
Mhm.
about Albert Einstein's wife.
Yep.
And when I read it, I had a lot of feelings too, so I think we should
Get
have
those
some good
emojis
discussion.
ready.
Yeah.
It's gonna be
So,
great. I'm very excited to read it, and also Women's History Month. So
yes. And we will post this video of the live on our blog, and all of the past month videos are on the blog currently. So if you ever missed one, you can watch them there.
mhm.
So this video will be up probably this weekend.
Yes. Great job.
Okay.
Okay, bye everyone. Thanks.
Thanks for all your good comments. That
You
was
guys
really
are
fun.
awesome. It's so fun. Okay.
Okay. See
Bye-bye.
ya.